Okay, so this is the best I can do, so let's just keep rolling. So we have no class on Friday, but because I'll be doing a virtual reality demonstration at St. Paul's in Grafton for I don't know, the department or whatever. But there will be a quiz during class time that can be taken on Blackboard. All right, so there will be a during class activity. You don't have to come here to do it, but go on Blackboard and do the quiz thingy. Okay, the assignment I give you today, I'll make due on Monday. So that means it'll be a 5 times bigger assignment. So it'll be perfect. All right. So, in any case, keep that in mind. All right. So last time we were talking about strings and concatenation, and how to convert integers into strings, those types of things. All right, so we want to experiment with this a little bit. Well, first of all, we're going to run over to Home Depot and grab another tool for us. So if I have a string like hello, and let's just say this is S is equal to hello. All right, I'm going to make this a, well, actually I'll keep it uppercase because I bet it's going to convert it in here. All right, if I want to get the H out of this guy, I say S at position 0. All right, so strings, I'm going to draw a little picture for us here. When I create a string like this, okay, we can say a string is a collection of characters. So this is the character H, the character E, the character L, the character L, the character O. Okay, so a string is indexed from bucket 0 to the length of the string minus 1. So S at bucket 0 would be the H. S at bucket 3, actually let's just do 4 since there's 2 L's in this guy, would be the O. That make sense? All right, so that's how we grab individual chars from a string. Now we also have a new string function. And it's not just a string function. We have a length function that takes a collection as a parameter. So right now, the only collection we know about are strings. We're going to be learning about lists pretty soon. But the length of a collection returns the number of elements in the collection. So for instance, if I say S is equal to hello, and then I say print len of S, this will print out a 5. The number of characters that are in that collection. All right, if I put 3 spaces there at the end, now it'll print out an 8. Spaces count as characters. All right, so this is any character that can live inside of a string, which is one of 65,536 characters, because that's the Unicode character set. All right, so we understand this length function, what that does for us. All right, so let's go and practice with this a little bit. So here's my test PY. Let's just gut this real quick. All right, so let's say I go ahead and I say S is equal to hello. We'll go ahead and print S at bucket 0. We'll print S at bucket 4. And we'll go ahead and print the length of S, showing those couple of things. Okay, so S at bucket 0 should be the H. S at bucket 4 should be the O. The length should be a 5. So there's the H, there's the O, there's the 5. All right. Now, if I wanted to write a loop that goes through this entire guy for each character that's in there, I can use a for loop. As we've seen before, a for loop, so I can say like for I in range 0 to 100, print I, and that'll print out the value 0 to 99. Right? We've seen that for loop before. So there's my 0 to 99. Okay. How could I modify this guy to go through, how could I modify this guy to print all of the characters that live in S? Well, I need a loop first. Go ahead.
So in the range, do 0 and then length the length function -1.
So length, do I need to go -1 or does it already go -1? When I had 100 in here, what did it count up to?
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Counted up to 99, right? Okay, so this will be the length of S. So I want to have I be equal to the number 0 all the way up to the length of S -1. So you're correct on the -1 thing. The range function just happens to pull up one short of what I put there. All right, and then what am I going to print in here? If I just do a print right now, it's going to print 0 to 4. Right, there's my 0 to 4. Because it's just taking I on a journey between 0, then 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. But I actually want to print out the characters. How can I print out the characters? Go ahead.
S in the bracket, but I.
That guy? I want the string at bucket whatever I is. So there's the HELLO. That make sense? Okay, so I'm going to show you another version of this for loop. So we can say for, you can name the variable whatever you want. So you can say for character in S, print character. S is a collection of chars. The result of range is a collection of ints. So there's hello a second time. This is the exact same for loop structure. Okay, I just happen to name this something really long, but I could have just called that C if I wanted to, and then printed out C in here if I wanted to keep it shorter like that. But range in this case will produce something that looks like that. A collection of ints from 0 to 4 in this example. Whereas S here is a collection of chars, HELLO. So I'm saying I want this variable to be equal to each element in this collection and automatically move through there as we walk through. That make sense? So we can expand on our understanding of the for loop a little bit here. For var in collection is what we're saying there. So this is going to make var equal to each element of collection naturally moving through it each iteration through the loop. Okay? What is the advantage of this guy versus this guy? We see that they have the identical output, right? Does that mean they have the identical function? What do I have access to up here that I don't have access to down here?
You don't have a range down.
I'm not using the range, but go a little farther.
Okay.
So, go ahead.
If you want to exclude something, you can.
If I want who?
To exclude something, like exclude one of the characters.
Okay, how am I going to exclude it?
By shortening the range.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's true. So he could say something like this. Length of s minus 2. And so now we can shorten the range where this guy's going to say, look, here's your collection. I'm going to be equal to each dude in that collection. We're going to go through. That's a fair statement. Not what I was thinking, but you have more granular control over that guy here. And it's even related to what I was thinking. Go ahead.
If you do like 0, 1, and then just do whatever ones you want to exclude other ones.
That's kind of what he said. Here, I'll give you a hint. We have access to two things up here. We have access to one thing down here. In both of these, I have access to the character, correct? I can get, the first time through, this will be a H. The first time through, this will be a H. What else do I have access to up here? What's the value of I? I is not H or E or L or L or O. What is I? We saw it before. If I were just to print out I here, what's it going to print out? 0 to 4. 0 to 4. 0 to the length of s minus 1. Right? Is that 0, 1, 2, 3, 4? Is that useful? Could that be useful? I have the actual index where we're currently at in the string available to me up there. So what if I only wanted to, and this kind of goes along with the exclusion stuff, but I can do exclusions based on that number. What if I only wanted to print out the even characters of the string, for example? How do I ask if I'm looking at an even character? Even character would be the characters that live at bucket, we'll say 0 count. So 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 12, so on and so forth. This goes right back to how human beings solve problems. We remember things, we ask questions, repetition. So what question do I have to ask to say, am I currently looking at an even character? Go ahead.
Evenly divisible by 2.
Okay, and how do I say, is it evenly divisible by 2?
2/2.
So if I mod 2 is equivalent to 0, then print s at bucket I. So each time through, I'll ask the question, is the current value of I I'm looking at, when divided by 2, does it have a remainder of 0? If the answer is true, I'll go ahead and print it out. If the answer is false, I won't. Go ahead and run this guy, and there is my HLO. Only the even characters. If I want to see the odd characters, what do I change here? Change the 0 to a 1. Now I get the odd characters. EL. That makes sense? I am conditionally printing stuff out. I'm only going to execute this line here if this Boolean expression boils down to true. Okay. repetition, asking questions, remembering stuff. Make sense? Goes back to those three principles of how human beings solve problems. All right, so up here, I have access to that variable for counting. I have that number. That doesn't make it better or worse. It just means if you happen to be interested in the counter, you might want to use this guy because you can do this type of stuff with this guy where you couldn't with this guy very easily. You know, what I could do is right before the guy down here, I could say pause is equal to 0. And then inside here, I can say pause is equal to pause plus 1. And I can conditionally ask the question if pause mod 2 is equal to 1, then we'll do our print. So now these two things would be equivalent, but rather than having my counter built into the for loop, I've just given myself kind of an extra little number to remember. So I'm going to remember I'm at bucket 0, I'm at bucket 1, I'm at bucket 2, so on and so forth, because I created a variable outside of here, and then I just incremented it each time. Now, does this guy increment every single time, or does it only increment when this Boolean expression is true? Don't guess, look at the code. This guy right here. When does he happen? Does he happen every single time through the loop? Or does he happen only when this Boolean expression is true? You say all the time? Why? Not indented. Not indented. Super, 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 super important with Python. The logic of this guy completely changes if I do that. Make sense? Incredibly important in Python. Vital. Absolutely vital in Python. So if you want this statement to belong to what happens to in this if statement, it has to be indented underneath it. If I don't indent it underneath it, it belongs with the thing that it's indented under, which is in this case is the for loop. Go ahead.
What would happen if you created like an infinite loop by accident? Would it just keep with the program?
Well, we've been doing infinite loops on purpose.
No, like an actual infinite loop.
Yeah, I got you. So we could do something like, well, here, I'll just show you a while true print hello, something like that. And then we'll go ahead and run this, and
It's still going.
we're off to, well, it's going to keep going until, I mean, maybe there's some sort of out of memory thing or something. So I'll hit Control C to kill it. All right, so, but in this case, I just wrote an obvious infinite loop, right? Let me show you an accidental infinite loop. All right, so before we get on to that, do we understand the difference between these two guys? So we understand how, look, if I just want to spin through everything in a collection, I can say for this value in this collection, I can just go. I can just use it. But what I've given up there is knowing what index I'm currently looking at. Am I looking at bucket 0, bucket 1, bucket 2? May or may not be important for whatever problem we're solving, but that is a consideration to ask before you decide, should I just go ahead and do a range and index the individual places in here, or do I just directly access the things in there? Go ahead.
Is one better at practice than the other?
Is one better at,
Is one better practice than the other?
what do you mean better practice?
Like, is the first one better to do all the time than the second one? No.
Oh, you mean if you were going to actually write the second one this way?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is ghetto.
Okay.
Yeah. This is like hacking at it, right? You're saying you already wrote it, and I don't know, a reasonable program probably should just go back and rewrite it real quick this way, but let's just say you didn't, and then all of a sudden you get into your code and you're like, oh, I kind of need the index. Just throw a counter in here, throw the increment down at the bottom, now I have the index. So this is very much a, you're doing some job around the house and you're 85% done with it, and you're like, well, I'm not going to start over. So a little piece of duct tape and some paint, we got this covered. So that's what that is. Still fun. this is more correct. If you want to have access to the index, you want that way. All right. But now I'm going to show you a little addendum thing with this range thing. All right. So I'll leave this guy down here. What is it? Is it shift? Nope, not that guy. Is it control that? I thought there was a way to indent a whole bunch of stuff at once. There probably is. I'm just forgetting how to do it. Here, let me just do this. Throw a sample for each loop thing in there. So you have it in your code. I can gut it from here. There's a little hidden thing here that currently says that. Let me take out this if statement since we want to actually go through them here. All right, so right now, this is going to print all of the elements from 0 to 4. So HELLO. Okay? And notice it did the exact same thing as when I did not have that comma 1 in there. So that comma 1 is assumed. That piece of it is optional. Range is start, end minus, well, let's see, end, well, let's just say end. And then this guy is the step. So start is what number to begin with. End is what number to end with, non-inclusive. Step is how much do we change the count each time. Okay? So, for instance, I could step by 2 if I want. And that'll hop. It'll be H, then L, then O. So there's a step by 2. Go and run this. There's HLO. What's going to happen right now? I'm stepping by -1. It's going to start off at 0. What's the next value? -1, then -2, then -3, then -4, then -5. Am I ever going to get up to the length of S?
No.
Okay, so in practice, this is an infinite loop. This will actually crash the second time through. I'll get the H, and then I'll get an index out of bounds exception. Started at 0. Step by -1. It should have printed 0 the first time. S at bucket 0.
Just like immediately quit out the program somehow.
No, it would give me an error message. I wonder why that's not printing out the very first one. It should start off at 0, go all the way up to this guy, step by -1, unless it has a check against the 0 and this and sees I'm walking backwards and just saves me. Because what we can do is we can say length of S, keep going as long as we are greater than or equal to, well, greater than or equal to 0 or greater than -1, since it's not inclusive. And then I'll step by -1. So this should print out hello in reverse. That was the error I was expecting to get before. Length of S minus 1, because the first bucket is not 4. The first legal bucket is not 5. The first legal bucket is 4, right? So this is going to say start at 4, keep going all the way to -1 non-inclusive, so including 0, step by a -1 each time. So there's our hello in reverse. It is interesting, though, that when I said start at 0, go all the way up to, but not including the length, step by -1, that it printed nothing. So that's showing some intelligence in the interpreter that it sees that I'm going in a very bad direction here. Well, I would have thought that it would have given me an error message here. It is interesting that it's not. But this would be an infinite loop. If I, let's see if we can prove it this way. Oh, it shortcuts it at this level. Yeah, that's interesting. So the for loop protects against the infinite loop in that direction. It's actually kind of smart, but that's somewhat new. So another thing I can do is I can say pause is equal to 0 while pause is less than length of S. I can say print, we'll just do hello, and then we'll say pause is equal to pause plus 1. So I want, actually pause minus 1. So pause starts off at 0, we'll print out hello, then 0 becomes a -1. Is -1 still less than the length of S? Go ahead.
Is pause just like a variable name you came up with, or is that a function?
Yeah, variable name. I could call it LOL if I want. Yeah, it's just the name of a variable. All right, so starts it off at 0. Is 0 less than 4? It is. Print out hello. 0 becomes -1. Is -1 less than 4? Yep. Is -2 less than 4? Yep. Is -3 less than 4? It'll just keep going forever. So there's our hello. Go ahead.
Would running it in Python 2?
Possibly. Possibly Python 2 would have shown that other issue. So range is 0 to length step. Yeah, I don't think it's going to. Yeah. It's noticing that this guy here is greater than this guy, so this step doesn't make sense. If I said go to -1000, step by -1, now it'll run. Because it's looking at the second parameter in range and saying this guy has to be a number relative to this guy. When I step in that direction, it gets there. So kind of smart. So it keeps us from getting into infinite loops. But if you want to force an infinite loop, you can do it with a while loop. All right, so questions about those different loops and walking through a string. Go ahead.
When you were going through the negatives and you had length in the ending place, you did put -1. So is length not always like a given that it's -1?
Well, the length of whatever collection you're giving at the smallest that would ever be is 0. Yeah, if you had the length of the empty string. So that guy would have a length of 0. Yeah, this is literally like a tape measure. We're measuring how many elements are in this. And you can never have negative elements. Okay. What if I wanted to build my string in reverse? So My last legal bucket in my string is length of S minus 1, right? So if the length is 5, last legal position is 4. If I wanted to go all the way up to and including 0, I would say go to -1 because we do not include this number, right? And I would say step by -1. So this will go through, and I'm going to go ahead and print out S at bucket I each time. So the first time through, it's going to print out S at bucket 4, which would be a O, then an L, then an L, then an E, then an H. So it'll print it out in reverse. Make sense? What if I want to build my string in reverse? Last time we were looking at working with concatenation, building up a string. Okay, so if I wanted to come in here and I wanted to say, okay, well, I'm going to have answer starting off as the empty string. Rather than printing out S at bucket I here, I can say answer is equal to whatever answer currently is equal to concatenated with S at bucket I. Then I can print out answer. Does this print happen each time through this for loop, or does it happen after the for loop is done? After it's done, because it's not indented under the for loop, right? So I've built up a string in reverse. That makes sense? So I started off with the empty string. The first time through, I set answer equal to whatever it's currently equal to, which is the empty string, and then bucket I of S, which was the O. Next time through, answer is equal to whatever answer currently is, which is this string here, concatenated with the next element, the next smaller element of that, which is L. Then L, then E, then H. So I built up answer inside of this for loop. And then when all was said and done, I printed out answer. That make sense? How can I accomplish the same thing with the for loop on line 8? I want to build hello in reverse, but I'm forcing you into this for loop. So you're not allowed to walk your string backwards. You have to walk your string forwards. What?
You have to do a nested loop starting at 4 and then going backwards so you can work inefficiently.
Yeah, it'd be inefficient. Or you could also play the game of like doing your length and subtract from it your current thing. But what if I said answer is equal to S at bucket I concatenated with answer? Why don't I just build it backwards? Notice the difference here? Up here I'm saying answer is equal to whatever it's currently equal to, and then I'm going to tack on my next character here because I'm going through my characters in reverse. Down here I'm saying answer starts off as the empty string. First time through I'm going to set answer equal to whatever character 0 is, which was the H, concatenated with the rest of answer. Next time through, the E, concatenated with the rest of answer. The L, concatenated with the rest of answer. The L, concatenated with the rest of answer. The O, concatenated with the rest of answer. So we reversed it because we built it in reverse. That make sense? I concatenated the stuff together in reverse. So both of these loops accomplish the same output.
Put answer. You just put one.
Oh, I need this. This needs to be answer 2 down here.
I figured it was that because I was like, does he not notice that?
All right, so there's your hello and reverse both ways.
Woo.
Now, realistically, if you want to go through something in reverse, why not loop through it in reverse? That would make the most sense. All right, but sometimes you might be going through 2 separate collections at once. Maybe you have 2 strings that have the same length, for example, and you need to go through one of them forwards and the other one in reverse or something like that. You can technically pull that off using kind of reverse concatenation. All right, all we're doing here is we're looking on the floor about all the tools we bought from Home Depot, and we're saying what kind of interesting ways can we use these guys. All right, that makes sense? So we're just using our mind to problem solve. Remind me. Um, 221 in binary. How do we do that? Which pattern is this? This is the divide by 2. So 221 divided by 2 gives me a 110. Remainder 1. 110 divided by 2 gives me a 55. Remainder 0. 55 divided by 2 gives me a 27. Remainder 1. 27 divided by 2 gives me a 13, right? Remainder 1. 13 divided by 2 gives me a 6. Remainder 1. 6 divided by 2 gives me a 3. Remainder 0. 3 divided by 2 gives me a 1. Remainder 1. 1 divided by 2 gives me a 0. Remainder 1. Then we read our answer from bottom up. So this is 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 1. Make sense?
Yeah.
Can we write a program that does this?
Yeah.
It actually wouldn't be that hard of a program, right?
Yeah.
I need to keep dividing by 2 over and over and over again. Repetition?
Or loops.
How long do I go for?
Till
When do I know I'm stopping? When my number whittles its way down to 0.
okay.
What am I recording along the way? The remainders.
The remainders.
Okay, so if I had code here, I'll paste this into Slack just so you have this as a. So let's say I have num is equal to, what was my number, 221? 221. All right. Now, I want to keep going as long as num is greater than 0. I'm stopping at the 0, right? While num is greater than 0, I'm going to do some stuff. Okay, what am I going to do? I'm going to print num mod 2. Then I'll say num is equal to num divided by 2. That's it. As long as num is greater than 0, record the remainder, adjust num to be smaller than it was before. Isn't that exactly what we did here? I kept doing this same math over and over and over and over again as long as something was greater than 0. Right? Ultimately, what did I do? Ultimately, what did I do? I recorded my remainder each time, then I whittled it down. You don't want to whittle it down first. That's important, because then you won't have the correct remainder. So if I divide it by 2 first, then get the 110, and then try to get the remainder of the 110 divided by 2, I'll get a 0 instead of the 1. All right? But realistically is I want to build this guy in reverse. Correct? So we'll go ahead and say answer is equal to the empty string. Rather than print, I'll go ahead and say answer is equal to, now what I want to do here is I want to say num mod 2 concatenated with answer. All right, but we discussed last class that both sides of this plus operator must be a string in order for concatenation to work, right? But we also ran out to Home Depot and got ourselves a little converter. Don't you wish you could do it that fast?
Yeah, that was good.
Now, is that code that difficult?
No.
I realized it would take you some time to sit there and kind of write it. But you see the power of being able to write code? Why sit there and do this stuff by hand forever? You could change this number to whatever you want. Just pick your favorite number. Boom.
Oh, jeez. That's right.
Make sense?
That's right. I actually calculated it. I would advise you do it.
For homework, let's see. Let me just get my, you're going to do the other conversion. So assuming your binary number looked like this. Write the code to convert binary to decimal. This is the other pattern. What do you need to do? This is the ones place, the 2s, the 4s, the 8s, the 16s, the 32s. So you're going to start at the end of this string. Walk towards the beginning of this string. You're going to have to keep track of what place you're currently looking at. Ones place, times 2 is the 2's place, times 2 is the 4's place, times 2 is the 8's place, so on and so forth. Ultimately spit out the answer, which in this case should be 221 in that example. That make sense? Go ahead.
Does it have to be that specific binary?
It should work for every binary number.
So like
In fact, it should never, if you ever question whether something should be a hard-coded value, the answer is always no.
so we should have it like input.
You can have them inputted, or you can just change it like I did up here. Or, you know, I could just bang on the keys and stuff like that. I don't care about that. I want the logic in between. I mean, it's one line of code difference, right? Yeah. All right, questions, what I'm asking you to do? And remember, that is for Monday. I'm also going to give you another thing from the book. But remember, and I'll make that due a Monday as well. But remember, there'll be a quiz during class on Friday that you can do online on Blackboard because I will not be here.
Does it close on the specific class?
Is what? Close.
Close the, like, if it's, you don't get in a certain amount of time, like a time limit?
Yeah, but I'll probably give a little wiggle room on either end. Yeah. So sometime before like lunch-ish on Friday. I might even make it wider than that, but do it during class time to protect yourself. All right. Let me stop the recording and get it uploading just so I don't